Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Hey, 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 we are live. We are live. And
This is voguing music.
We are live on the Miguel and Holly Facebook page and the Miguel and Holly YouTube channel, where you can always go back if you listen to just the audio. You can always go back and listen. Make sure also to join our Facebook group, the Miguel and Holly Facebook fam / Platypus Posse. So if you are a new Miguel and Holly fam member, one of our new Charlotte fam, welcome to it. We'd love to hear from you. If you're new, make sure we got some new blood coming in, entering into the fam.
Yeah, we like to mix it up.
Also, I'm putting a request out because we've had some good ones this week, but our Queen City Secret segment that we're now doing daily, we are asking for you, if you have a secret, it can be super scandalous or not so scandalous.
Yeah,
but
wait,
just
didn't
a
we have
secret.
one about someone was stealing plastic bags from their work?
Yes, we did. We did. We actually did. Hold on.
Whatever you want to get off your chest. That's fine.
Hold on. Because I can put it through the voice disguiser. Here we go. This is the secret that we had Tuesday.
My secret is that I take plastic bags for my job. Sometimes I just don't have enough, and I use them to put my garbage from my home. It's a weird secret, but I'm too embarrassed to tell anyone that I steal plastic bags.
God bless her.
And Holly, when we did that on Tuesday, you were like, the fuck is that? I was like, Holly,
What?
we have been,
yeah.
we are supposed to get people to submit through the talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app.
I know, but it was just so wholesome. I was like, oh, I mean, that's okay. Like, I mean, it's not, I guess, stealing, but like, it just felt so, like, it was this random, like, breath of fresh air when I was like, I'm a cheat, I'm a man, I'm having a threesome at a bachelorette party, I'm doing all this stuff. I steal plastic bags. I'm like, what? So that's why I was just a little taken aback.
It's a little break.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Because Queen City Secret is doing it daily. It's like, bam, bam, bam. In your face.
real.
Just anxious for every single person.
Right? So we started off with that one and you can, on the iHeartRadio app, when you pull up Hits 96.1, there's a little microphone right next to the play button, and then you can just leave your message there. So we had that wholesome one, and then the next day, Charlotte was like, oh, you thought that was a secret.
So I am a married man. I'm straight. Been married for a few years now. But when I'm alone, I like to watch gay porn. I've never been with a guy. I've never thought about being with a guy, but I guess I'm just kind of curious.
He's just curious.
Well, just curious, girl. So
I used to do a segment called I'm Just Curious.
we did.
That
was
man is
fun.
just curious.
Girl, he said, I'm just curious. Can you
Just
help me
curious.
find out, girl? So they run the gamut. So we've had a few come in, but we'd love some more. Like I said, you are anonymous, and we run them through the voice disguiser, which is a really cool thing that we have here at Hits 96.1. So all you got to do is just on the iHeartRadio app, just go to Hits 96.1 and click on the little microphone right there. And we do Queen City Secrets every day at 7:10. So I wanted to talk about, and I'm hoping this girl gives me her phone number, because I've been wanting to talk about this show that I watched this week. It's called The Most Hated Man on the Internet.
Okay.
I've seen that.
Did you watch it?
No.
Oh,
No, but I've seen it.
you're like, I saw the preview.
He saw that it exists.
Yes.
So
Didn't watch it.
basically what it's about is around 2010, 2011, when the internet I mean, it's always the Wild Wild West, but back
Mhm.
then it was really, really the Wild Wild West with social media.
Well, it was relatively, social media was relatively new then, right?
Well, it was becoming more mainstream because remember, social
Oh, yeah,
media.
2010.
Right.
You're right.
Think about it. Like 2008, 2007, we were dealing with MySpace,
MySpace.
and so then we moved to Facebook. That's where it was through your college and stuff like that. And then they opened it up around 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
So then 2011 is when 2009 is when Twitter came about. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, this is about this website called isanyoneup.com. It doesn't exist anymore. But this was where the term revenge porn came from. And there was a guy named Hunter Moore who was the person who created the site. And so all of a sudden, like Holly, let's say back in 2011, you were in your, we were 28, 29 at the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll say 28, 29.
So back then, you were with your ex-husband. And
Actually, I think that 2011, I was 29.
So let's just say back then you sent your ex-husband a topless photo of yourself. Okay.
Okay.
And let's say you two broke up 2 months later.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, someone would call you and be like, girl, you're on this website. The photos you took topless are on this website, is anyoneup.com. And in so they would have your photo that like your ex would send in, and then it'd be like, drag this whore. And then the comments would be nothing but, look at her lopsided titties. Look at this. I mean, it was just the most vile.
Titties alone.
Right?
That's awful.
It was
Yeah.
horrible. And so people would end up on this website and it would ruin their lives. Well, they would try to then message the owner of the website, this Hunter Moore, and be like, hey, I'm a mom. Can you take my photo down? He would literally laugh at them and then go to their Facebook page, take a screenshot of it because you couldn't lock it down like you can now.
No.
And then he would put their Facebook image underneath the topless photo so people could see all their stuff. And we're talking about at that time, girls who had kids.
Yeah.
Who in their cover photo would have their kids. I mean, it was nuts. And this guy had like zero empathy, zero remorse. Hunter Moore.
Sociopath.
Yes. And that's what he was.
Yeah.
And so the whole series, it's like 3 episodes. It takes you on the journey of like how it happened, like at the height of it, and then how it all stopped and got taken down. Super, super fascinating. Well, I posted an image about it on my Instagram last night, and a girl messaged us, I guess, old school Tampa listener, but she's now in Texas. And she was like, I was actually on the website and I dealt with this Hunter guy. I was like, can we talk to you on the podcast, please? And so I'm waiting for her to send me her phone number. So if she does, if the conversation meanders, we'll call her and talk about it.
Yeah, that's so horrible.
But one of the things that was just like really what made me sad about it is I had to stop and I was like, let me do some quick math. And so the guy Hunter at the time, 2011, he was like 26. And I was like, how old would he be? Oh my God. Him and I are the same age. And so then all the people that they feature throughout, and by the way, there's a guy from Tampa that was on it. And there's somebody from Buffalo, and Abe, who doesn't like documentaries. He was invested. All these people, like these are people our age.
Yeah.
Who, like in our mid to late 20s, we're just putting our shit out there.
Right. The internet was so new. We didn't know that you had to be so like insane.
Right.
Like we knew from back in the AOL days, like you shouldn't give your private info out, but like that was in AOL chat rooms. Like it was different because social media made it seem like, well, this is just your circle of friends.
Right.
Because even in like 2011, like 2010, 2011, I didn't have that many people on social media that I didn't know in real life.
Right.
And also with cell phones and just texting, you didn't, it was like a time without fear, but we should have had the fear. Does that make sense?
Even
Right.
then, it was really difficult for you to like send a photo to your email
Right.
or
Oh, yeah.
upload anything of that sort.
Yes.
Like you were
That
taking
was
nudes
still
with
the era.
razors.
Yeah, I was
Mhm.
gonna say that's still the era. We still did have digital cameras then too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, yes, phones could take pictures in 2010, 2011, but they were kind of shitty.
Right.
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 I mean, and even then, like, and this is part of it where I think how to tell this without spoiling any of it. So remember back then, like I've got like I could probably launch the first spaceship on this phone now that I have. Where back
Elon
then,
Musk probably launches SpaceX from his phone.
right? But back then, your iPhone or your Android, remember, you were always running out of space with your pictures. And so a lot of these girls, the reason why they were so confused about why they were on their site, because they were like, well, I never sent my photo to anyone, but I would email it to myself.
Mhm.
And I don't understand how it ended up on this website. So like we didn't know anything about like two-factor authentication. There was no safeguards to anything.
Yeah.
And so it really also tells the tale of how like we have been like the guinea pigs, our generation, like older millennials, younger millennials, on how to deal with the internet. Because
Yeah.
we came up in that time of like when YouTube was new and we were posting stuff. And I was thinking about like, what was I doing on social media at that time? And I remember my Twitter was just like my drunk diary back then.
Yes.
Yes.
You ever seen
Yes.
Facebook memories? My Facebook memories from 09 are like, because you would write it as though you were in a third person.
Right.
So it said Holly already. And then I would just be like, thinks she's going to have a late lunch.
It was very Twitter. Facebook was very Twitter-ish
It
around that
was.
time.
Mhm.
In fact, for a brief moment in time, Twitter and Facebook linked together and you could send twit pics betwixt the
Yes.
two.
Mhm.
God, like it was just, we had to learn so much different fucking technology that all was stupid until we got to like stuff that worked. And I'm telling you, just knowing the amount of stuff that we know now that I know for sure most baby boomers do not know.
Right.
And like thinking about my kid who just, it is now what it is. But I'm like, but you don't have this massive amount of like internet knowledge about like the rules. Like there's just unspoken rules of
Right.
like internet that I couldn't even, unless a specific example came up, like I couldn't even tell you what some of them are because we as a collective, like probably like young Gen Xers, elder, like all millennials, Gen Zers, like we just know things.
Right.
And then trying to pass it on because the young generation coming up, like Gen Alpha, never had to go through it. It's just been there for them.
Right.
They didn't learn the rules as they went. It's just crazy. It's like a little bit mind bending.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and just how we've learned like women. I mean, there was this one girl, the first episode. And like it's gonna sound funny, and like the first time she said it on the show, you're like, oh my God, that's so crazy. And then it digs down deeper into it, and you're like, oh, we really were like at the very beginning of our understanding of like mental health. Her name was Butthole Girl in that crowd.
Oh no.
And you're like, girl, why you
Oh,
back
no.
then? How did you become internet famous? Do the craziest shit possible.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Mhm.
And now, 10 years later, she's like, I have kids.
Yeah.
And there was a time in this subculture of people, I was called Butthole Girl.
Mm.
You'll have to watch the documentary to see why. And then one of the other things that just made me go, when you look back, and even probably 10 years from now, we can look back and see, here are some of the things that led to Donald Trump. And now there's a difference between hardcore, and I feel like now we've come out of like the dark times where we can say like, he is bad for America. Republicans are not. There is a difference. And we're now seeing that with like what happened in Kansas City, where Republicans, moderates, everyone was like, we don't want to ban abortion into our state constitution.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to see the light. There is a difference between that.
Mhm.
but you can start to see the seeds of how Donald Trump became Donald Trump, because this guy, Hunter, who I don't want he went through several different phases of the website, and he got more crazy, and he had this his followers called the family,
Mhm.
who would threaten people, and like no matter how unhinged or how mean or how nasty he got, they would always defend him.
Mhm.
And so even on like national television,
Mhm.
when Hunter went on, Anderson Cooper had a TV show back then, and he brought him on, Hunter, with these two girls that were featured on his site to be like, hey, look these two women in the eyes and be like, I have no remorse for ruining your life. And he basically was like, I ruined your life. I don't care. And so everyone in
Cringe.
the world was like, oh my God. And it's funny, like talk show reactions when they pan the camera
Oh yeah.
and you see all the women just being like, get him,
Mhm.
Anderson.
Mhm.
But like then the documentary shows like his people called the family tweeting, being like, get him, yeah, that's right, make those bitches look crazy, yeah. And it was like,
All you have to do is put a slightly mentally unstable person in front of a crowd and they will collect followers.
yes, absolutely.
People want someone to tell them what to do. The crazier the better.
Right.
So anyway, hopefully if we can't get her on the phone today, then maybe next week. But I'm so
Wow.
fascinated to hear her story. But the most hated man on the
sad.
internet. I'll read her.
That reminds me of the Girls Gone Wild times in Panama City with Joe
Oh.
Francis.
That's right. I forgot about
Oh my
that.
God.
Remember?
That was a
Mhm.
thing. At
It
like
was.
midnight
It
on
was-
Comedy Central, they would promote it.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it was like we were in Panama City doing radio at the time, then the very tail end of that era, when he would literally be like, it was just like that. The more crazy, like the crazier and more scandalous it was, the more it blew up, until they realized that these are underage women
Right.
Ugh,
here at high school spring break.
wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just
So
it makes me so
crazy.
like it made me so sad a little bit for our generation, which every generation has something where they can look back and be like, ooh, that wasn't our best.
Right.
You know, in
Yeah.
their early 20s.
Yeah, well, we're not claiming Joe Francis. We're
No,
like, this guy
no.
happened and we were around for it.
Right. We just happen to be there. But
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my gosh, like these are people that like we were in Tampa the first time at Play 98.7 working while all this subculture of this website was going down. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like we're a part of these people right now. Like this is nuts.
Yeah,
Nuts.
very nuts.
Here's the message that she sent me though.
Mhm.
She said, he posted me on his stupid site a couple of times. If you don't do what he wants, he'd post your nudes, even underage people. He was trash. He wanted to be Chris Stone. I don't know who that is. He had originally created Sticky Drama and closed it, and Hunter kept it in revenge porn fashion, but even worse than Chris was, as Chris limited his posts to stickam material, whereas Hunter would get, I don't want to reveal this part, nudes, and would threaten and get nudes. Bad dude.
So it's like blackmailing, basically, obviously.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't think the culture has changed much though with sending out nudes. I don't think people are as worried as I don't think people were worried back then either, now that I think about it. But you would think with all these repercussions.
Why are people not as worried
Yeah.
as they should be?
Well, because I think that starting with us, because it was available with millennials, where
Yeah.
we started to send naked pictures because it was easy, because you didn't have to go to Walgreens or Walmart and get your camera roll developed.
Well, I mean, like, nudity is so like obscene in America. There's
Right,
that.
right.
There's the fact that, like, the banter between people who are sexually attracted to each other, like, is eventually going to lead to potentially seeing that person naked. So I get that aspect of it, but like just from the security, safety, like, do you really know who you're sending your stuff to? Is there a way to
Right.
track it back to you? Aspect.
Well, I think we are. From what I've seen on Twitter, on my alt Twitter, and on in the conversations I've seen around like OnlyFans and stuff, that we started it, millennials, being able to have the access to be able to send naked photos to each other.
Mhm.
As we then got closer to our 30s and mid 30s, we were like, ooh, I feel shame. But you have Gen Z who's like, fuck it. If I want to fuck on camera, I don't care.
Right.
Hey, here's
Right.
my OnlyFans. I mean, and like there are people that I've seen that we've known for 10, 12 years from Panama City, Holly, on my
Mhm.
Instagram or my Twitter that have popped up recently, that I remember like when we would see them at the homecoming or the high school games we used to do at Tommy
Mm.
Oliver Stadium in Panama City. And so now they're in their mid 20s and they're like, here's my OnlyFans. And I'm like,
I guess for me as an elder millennial, I'm like, is this impacting like a future job possibility for you? And I guess the answer is no.
I mean, because as you think about when they get to this point, like we're in that point in our careers where we're starting to get to like that middle management or upper management. And so now as older millennials, we're like, all right, I gotta like button my shit up. Let me like hide the albums from college on Facebook and delete the posts from 2009 on my Twitter.
Yeah,
So
sadly.
we're starting to think about that. But think about where you were at 25, 24, 23. You didn't have a concept of like what that looked like.
What
Yeah,
other, like,
that's
you don't
true.
have a concept of what your future looks like.
Right.
Mhm.
And so
Very difficult to see in it like a future you or consequences in general, not
Right.
just for that.
right. And so if you're 23, 24 and you're like, all right, all of my friends around me have OnlyFans. I can make some money while doing it and no
Right.
one's shaming me and everyone else is doing it.
Right.
Why not? This will be my side hustle or this could become my hustle, my job.
Mm.
So it's like the shame has been taken away.
Mm.
And it's like,
I don't know that all the shame has been taken away though, because you're gonna find plenty of shamers.
right, absolutely. But
Right.
if you surround yourself in that ecosystem,
Yeah.
then who's going to shame you if you're surrounded by other people who
By
do it?
yes men, the people that do it.
Yeah.
That and society is changing with body positivity too. So it's, it's a lot of conversations circling.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I do wonder about the longevity of an OnlyFans person.
Right.
Right.
Like
yes.
people are going to see every crevice and corner and
a lot.
opening.
Yeah.
Like what new content? I don't know. What new content can you make after a while, and how long are you going to do this for? And what's going to happen when
You
quote
wanna
unquote
bu-
you age out, right? Like people constantly there's ageism in
Right.
porn.
Yeah.
So it's all very interesting to see if they even think about their long term.
I just kind of feel like, God, why did this even just pop into my head? Let me just give sort of an analogy, if you will.
Mhm.
So when I was like 18, I wanted to either get a tattoo or a body piercing. And I really did use my like 18-year-old brain to really think about these future consequences. And I was like, okay, so if I get a tattoo right now, what if I really hate it by the time I'm 30? Which sounded so fucking old, by the way. I was like,
God.
30. I'll be like, whatever, old, and like, who cares then? But maybe I'll hate this tattoo. So I had the common sense at that time. I was like, I don't have a solid idea for a tattoo, but you know what? I'll just pierce my belly button, because like a piercing, you just take it out and it closes up and you can't even tell anything was there.
Mm.
That was my logic. Well, let me tell you, like, you can still see this freaking hole in my belly button.
Oh.
It don't go away.
Oh no.
There's a scar. There's
Right.
absolutely a hole. Like, it's there. Like,
Right.
when I was pregnant, it was like, like you can't. In my 18-year-old mind, I'm like, it just disappears once you take the piercing out. That is a lie, Holly, that you told yourself. Actually, you believed it though. So
By the way, Kelvin, the screenshot for today's podcast is Holly's face going, "Bleh."
no, not
I was
me.
gonna say the belly button.
Pull my shirt out.
No, just
Oh.
when you said when I was pregnant, blah, that's a
Bleh.
screenshot for
Got it.
the podcast.
And I'm so sorry. I don't mean to like God, totally get off topic, but it's slightly related because it has to do with college and like just the thought process. So I apologize for veering off course a little bit from
fine.
body stuff. But I just had this conversation last night with my person. So we're laying in bed and I don't even know where this came from. Doesn't matter. It would be interesting to figure out where the fuck this came from. But I told him, I'm like, do you realize? And he's like, where's this going? I was like, do you realize when I was in college, the entire way through college, my friends and I, my girlfriends, so from the age of 18 through the end, 21, 22 years old, and people are having a lot of sex in college. I was 19 when I first had sex. And so throughout, then I got a boyfriend pretty quickly. Me and that guy ended up dating for a while. But, as girlfriends in college, you become like family because you got to look out for each other. And of course, one of the things we wanted to do was prevent an unwanted pregnancy.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, do you realize that I truly and 100% honestly believed and would remind my friends, you can get pregnant any time of the month. You can get pregnant 24/7, 365. I solidly believed that and believed it to be a fact because I heard a rumor in high school that a girl had gotten pregnant on her period. And then I think I maybe saw some passing thing that said something about it or whatever. And all my friends thought it too. We're like, yeah, you always have to be careful. I'm like, we literally believed that and would remind each other. I'm like, now, it wasn't the worst lie to believe.
No,
Because it kept a bitch safe.
Right. No, true. You were protected all the time.
All the time. But we literally believed it like it was fact. And I actually didn't know it wasn't fact until I looked into getting pregnant when I was close to 30.
Wild.
I have
Wild times.
what sometimes as we've had this, abortion discussion, the past few weeks or since
and people
everything.
that don't understand how women's bodies work. Yeah,
Yes.
there's a reason because no one tells anyone how women's bodies work.
Absolutely. I'll throw another podcast out here for you that I love. Through line from NPR. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, they do such an amazing job of breaking down history stuff.
Ooh, okay.
And they did one on, I think it was either the healthcare system or abortion or women or something like that, where it talked about the history of something medical. So if you go on their feed, you can see it. But one of the things that they talked about is that before, I think it was the 1800s, right, or before that, women were in charge of other women's health. Like when you gave birth, it was a midwife that would help you. That's what it was. It was the history of abortion. That's what it was. And so people never had a big deal about it. Like they would talk to you through it. And there was something called, I think, the quickening that they would call it back then. And then it was when men took over science and being doctors, and they went to medical school, and then they sort of bumped out midwives and stuff like that.
Midwives, healers, historically, medicine women.
Any of that stuff, women were out. And so then it was men that were like, well, here's what I think the vagina does. Here's what I think happens inside. And so then we get into the 1900s where they don't understand women and where they're just doing stuff that they don't understand what they're doing. And so that's why we get to now where Holly's in college and she's like, oh, yeah, girl, you can get pregnant anytime.
Your whole uterus is just like open season.
Come on, girl.
It's like a Denny's 24 hours a day.
Even though we've all gone through health and realized that it's all about the egg traveling down the fallopian tube and it's got to sit there.
But I didn't remember learning about that part of it in 5th grade, which is, by the way, the only sexual education I ever got was in that one quarter of a class in 5th grade.
Not in high school?
No.
What?
Zero sex education that I recall in high school.
I don't remember in high school either. I remember 5th grade as well.
5th grade.
Maybe, oh no, actually no, maybe 6th or 7th grade too.
I think we had no, not middle school. I think we would giggle too much. I can't remember. we had health class.
Right.
We had health class that oftentimes the gym teacher would teach, which the gym teacher, not the best instructor usually. Now, that's not to say that's always the case. But in my case, it was not always the best person for the job.
You're gonna have sex and die.
I know.
You see
Don't
this?
do
like-
it.
Penis has got.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, maybe in high school we did have a health class that it did not talk about reproduction. It just talked about like a general overview of like what men and women's parts were.
No, we absolutely did. We did it in when I was in Denver for 4th and 5th grade, and it was like 2 parts of it where it was like 4th grade, it was like the like very kid, like, ooh, whitewash, like, haha, here's what happens. And then
Yeah.
like 5th grade, it was like bam, and we were all like,
Yeah, I know. 5th
And we
grade,
could,
like you're looking at each other being like,
right?
like it
And-
looked crazy.
And then when I got to Georgia, back to Atlanta in 8th grade, we learned about it again there. And then towards the end of high school and health class, whenever you took it, we learned about it again. So yeah, I had a very thorough education about it.
Well, go ahead, Georgia, because apparently in Ohio they were like, yeah, y'all figure it out. I guess. Like it just really was not talked about. Like I felt so unprepared.
I was so
I am making sure
innocent.
my child. Yeah.
I was so innocent that I asked my 6th grade teacher what a climax was.
Oh,
He had to explain it in front of the
How
whole
did you even
class.
No, though.
Well, because we were all talking about puberty and whatever, and he had said the word climax, and I was like, "What's a climax?"
Yeah.
And he explained it to all of us.
how to get
well-
to the top of the
Yeah.
mountain.
Yep,
That's
yep,
good. Like I swear to you, not one person. I never once knew about what the hell a female orgasm was. They don't
didn't
teach
talk
that.
about
That's why.
No, they didn't talk about it. They didn't know.
Well, I remember reading this historical romance novel. Keep in mind, I did not have personal time until I was 22 years old, y'all.
Oh,
Good times.
wow.
So in high school, I would read these historical romance novels by Amanda Quick, and they all had like one word names like surrender and passion and, you know,
Yes.
Take me.
flames, or I don't know, whatever. It was great though, because it was like all proper English, but like it was always the same fucking formula. It would always be old like England times when the women would wear like Downton Abbey, but before that, like petticoats.
Mhm.
And they would have their debut, like they'd be debutantes, and there'd be like one roguish gentleman who would always like whisk some girl away. Like
Yeah.
it was always the same. And in these romance novels, they had these sex scenes, and it would always be like, and I'd be reading this at night, and I'm like, what the and it would always be this man that would like be like reach down and rub her love button or something. And I literally, while reading this, would be like, what does that mean?
What's a love button?
I'm like,
love button.
My mine's not developed yet. I'm like, I don't know
We
what
don't
that
have one.
means. I was just like very confused, but I wanted to keep reading, so I was like, I'll figure it out later. So I just kept reading, and then it would talk about like a female orgasm, and then I would just be like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what are they talking about? What are they talking about? And it wasn't until Sex in the City, actually, that I was a senior in college, and Samantha kept like, they would talk about it in thing. I had thought that I had one, whatever. And then one time, but I never did myself. And then one time Samantha would like locked herself in a room one day
I
in an
remember that.
episode. Do
Mhm.
you remember that episode? She just was
Mhm.
like, it's just so good. I just wanted to do it all day. And so, I was like, you know what? I've had enough of this. I'm going to do it. And so I committed because I was like, this is ridiculous. I feel so silly. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Uh-huh.
And then I did it. And that was the very first time I actually had an orgasm. And I was like, ah!
And
I was
then
like, this is
You
amazing.
did it every day for the next week.
Absolutely.
Because when you
Absolutely.
discover, it's like,
You're
Just
like, I
again.
didn't even know my body could do that.
and again.
And then it was real awkward because I had the same boyfriend. And I was like,
oh,
oh no. Oh no. Oh dear.
you're
where do we go
this
from
is
here?
Bad.
Ultimately, that relationship ended. That's-
Yeah.
Because every time Holly was in the dorm room,
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind.
all right, you want to get
I
kissed off?
just, yeah, whatever. I just really, I felt like I was so, and this is how they wanted it, the patriarchy. Like I just knew nothing about my own body for
No.
like half of my life.
Yeah.
Nothing. So it's my goal to make sure my kid knows things.
Some of the comments we've gotten. Shannon said, I went to private Christian school in middle school when they did the health instruction, and it was so biased and not factual.
It's a shame.
Of course.
Stefan said, it's insane how identical sex education was taught to us as well. Reproductive in 5th grade and health class by a gym teacher in 7th.
Yes.
Stefan also said, I remember in health class, they played a video about how harmful drinking is. And there was a girl that came straight out of the 80s who said, get with it, Stacy. Oh.
What? That's amazing.
I
it's
can
probably
picture
not.
it in my mind, though. Get with it, Stacy. And then
sorry, I feel a little bit of vulnerability hangover. Sorry, I just divulged so much, but I just felt so like, oh my God, like why did I not know any part of any of this ever?
Your
like,
story probably relates to a lot of other women as well. Like I knew everything about the male, the climax and all that stuff, and I can't remember one of my friends telling me about their experience with sex ed. So probably related to a lot of people.
hopefully so. At least somebody feels maybe like they're not alone.
girl, I remember first time I did, I was in the 7th grade. I remember where I was, what happened,
Me
and how
too.
I was like, oh! Oh!
Must have been weird at 13 versus 22.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
I
Like,
needed an
that's so
ice
bizarre.
pack.
Whoa,
I needed an
no.
ice pack after my first time. I don't know why. I was like in a little pain.
Well, because your
Oh.
body hadn't produced.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden your body's
That
like,
sounds so uncomfortable to me.
an
Ugh.
ice pack right in my area. I was like, oh, that was painful. I like it.
now me, girl. I was like, woo, that was fun. Let's do it again.
Oh my
And then I just
God.
remember like, and it's so funny when you're a teenager, like you think this is the first time anyone's ever done this.
Right.
And so I'd be like, I'm gonna take a long bath.
like
I'ma
nobody
just-
knows.
I got Time
Well, yeah.
magazine, and my grandma was probably just like, bitch, you think I don't know?
She probably
No.
didn't though, because you know what? Your grandmother was probably so like, into Jesus, and she knew she had brought you to the church, and she knew that you were like, I think that my mom assumed that I would never have questions about sex or sexuality, and I didn't. So she was not
So-
incorrect.
Here's where my grandma and your mom are different because they were both religious.
Yeah.
And my mom says this lovingly, so I don't want anyone to take this out of context. But my mom is always like, girl, your grandma was a hoe back in the day.
Oh,
She found Jesus later on in her life, okay?
Yes,
it
honey.
doesn't matter when one finds Jesus.
Okay, my uncles and my aunts, there was different daddies going on back there, girl. Lydia Cole, there was a before Jesus and after Jesus.
Amen.
Okay.
So she knew.
I got it.
She knew.
Oh,
She knew.
Yeah.
But
okay.
she was just like, but we don't talk about it.
No. Oh
We don't do
God,
that sort of
no.
thing.
You-
And I remember one
in the
time going
bathroom.
to this church men's retreat one time in high school. And I remember one of the elders talking to all the teenage boys about like how, personal time was bad and you shouldn't do it. And like Jesus is watching. And I was like,
oh God.
I can't
Yeah.
do nothing on Friday night as a 7-day Adventist.
Yeah.
I can't watch TV. I can't go eat somewhere on Saturday. We gotta be at church and eat this vegetarian food. And now you tell me the one thing that I was doing on Friday nights by myself, I can't do.
Sorry about you.
Girl.
Rough times. Rough times for young Miguel.
Never again, he says now. Never again.
That's why Miguel has such a rampant schedule now.
Ooh, don't look at that alt account. Real quick, I did want to touch back on to also Shannon earlier as we were talking about younger generation and OnlyFans and stuff. And she said, speaking as a mom of teens, they don't care as much because they all do it. Also, the culture encourages it. No hashtag no face, no case. I haven't heard of that. Is that a thing?
No face, no case.
I'm
Mhm.
sure, like, because then
Yeah.
they can't prove it's you, right?
Yeah.
That's why you don't include your face in the naked.
No face, no case.
Stuff.
When it comes to nudes.
Oh, okay. I hadn't heard of that.
I just get really scared as a parent of a young kid. I really do. It's very scary. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to push it off because I don't have to deal with it yet, but it's coming.
Or you could be like
Got a big storm coming.
No. Laura said, my ex wouldn't let my son take sex ed, so my son would ask me questions. One night driving, he asked me what a dildo was. So I told him.
Well,
How old, Laura? How old was your son?
Listen.
Someone put podcast title "Sexual Awakening."
Oh,
Laura Top
Laura
Life.
Top Life.
Yeah, sexual awakening.
Oh my
Boom.
God, the love
Okay.
button.
the love button.
Holly's love button.
Listen, we were told by iHeart execs we can be dirty on the podcast, but he said specifically, quote, don't be nasty.
Gotcha.
He said,
That
don't
is
be
what he had
nasty.
said.
He did. I remember that because I wanted to laugh so loud. And he was like, sometimes some of these morning people on their podcast just get nasty. And I'm like, we're not
And
nasty. We're
We're like,
tasteful.
oh, we are family conscious.
Yeah. Well, not on the podcast. Well, this is why we have the warning. I think we're not nasty. Like, we don't tell details. Like, I'm not going to sit here.
Yeah.
Like, off the camera, I will tell you all what happened that first time I had my time, but there's just details that ain't nobody want on camera or on
Yeah,
audio
no.
forever.
Right.
No.
Wait, hold on before we go.
And no, we're in the warnings later on. It's rough. Laura said that her son was 13 when asking about the
Well,
sex toy,
Wait,
which
that's
is, I think, more.
That's 8th grade, 9th grade, somewhere
That's-
around there.
Yeah.
I was hoping he wasn't like 9
Right.
because I don't know.
Because boys, they'll make a joke about a dildo.
Right.
Yes,
That's
they
true.
say that, but like they don't know what it means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Laura said, be scared. I worry my daughter is sending nudes to boys on
Oh,
Snapchat.
God.
Oof.
That's a convo you got to have with your kid. I feel.
Snapchat lulls you into a safe sense of security because it disappears, right?
Right.
That don't mean you can't
People-
screenshot it, and
people
then you see you
retrieve it.
screenshot
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
or like your camera recording. You know what I mean? Like you're recording the
Mhm.
session,
Mhm.
and then you can just snapshot the video. Like it's just
And people have multiple devices. You can use your
Yes.
iPad to just record your iPhone when
Right.
you open it.
right.
And they have documentaries about that now. So I wonder if, because I feel like when you're a teen and like adults tell you like don't do this, you just don't have the mental capacity to like think about the consequences. But I
You
think when you
You feel like they're being
see-
lame.
right, they're like trying to stop you from having fun. You're like, well, you had fun, why can't I? But I think watching a documentary like The Most Hated Man on the Internet, or there are other ones that talk about revenge porn, or this whole thing where they're doing with teens where they're gosh, I forgot what the term is, where they're basically blackmailing them with their nudes and stuff that they send, and they basically bait them and stuff like that. Like, kids are killing themselves over that type of thing. So like showing them like this is what can happen if you send it to the wrong person.
Yeah,
I wonder if that will
and they
help.
don't know how to trust. Like,
Right.
just anyway, stressful, scary.
All right, we're out of here for today. Thank you all so much for participating.
Mhm.
Quick little shout out to everyone: Martha, Cassie, Amy, Francisco, Anne Marie, Shannon, Laura, Stefan, Kelly, Steph, Jason. I think I got everybody. Laura, thank you everybody for watching today. We appreciate it. Holly, what's all of your social media?
It is Radio Holly on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram.
Kelvin.
At Kelvin Live, Instagram, Twitter, and I don't know about OnlyFans anymore.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Wait, what is it?
Maybe not.
No face, no case.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
true.
see,
I can show
girl.
poll.
There you go. Oh, mine is
that.
Miguel Fuller everywhere. We will see you all next week.
Miguel and Holly Uncensored.
Catch it on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere you listen to podcasts.